And we are rolling. Mr. Brian Alien, how you doing?
Great. How are you, Earl?
Good. Thanks for coming on the show. Everything
Thanks
going
for
good?
thanks for having me.
And what I'll do first, I'm going to give everybody an introduction. I'm going to give you an introduction to everybody so that they'll have an idea. So, you and I, believe it or not, it's going on around 20 years now.
Yeah, it must be.
Because I think we first met each other, I think it was around 2007, 2006,
Yeah.
maybe even 2005, but I think definitely 2006 or 7, because we came up to Manitoba's to play a show in New York, and you and Chris came out, and I think
Yeah.
that's the very first time I met you. So we're going on 20 years now. Isn't that crazy?
Congratulations.
Yeah, right? So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Brian Alien. He has played in bands such as Animale, Disassociate, Latex Generation, and a ton of others. He's a drummer. He's a guitarist. He's a songwriter. He's like me. He plays just about everything. And I first met him in New York, and he ended up playing in a band that I started in North Carolina, and then we've toured together. Our bands have toured together, so we've had a lot of good times.
That's
So
great.
absolutely. So why don't you do this, Brian? Tell everybody where you started out, where you were born, and then tell your story, and eventually you're going to get up to the point where you and I cross paths, if you would. The stage is yours.
I was born in Hicksville, Long Island. That's where I grew up. The hospital was Mineola Hospital, and then around 16, I started playing drums.
Nice.
Let's just jump right away. And the first time I ever played drums was with my dad and my uncle and my cousin, and we were playing Beatles covers. And so later on, around 1993, I met Kenny Bones, who played in a band called Negative Reaction. And I'm still playing in Negative Reaction today. We just put out a new album called Zero Minus Infinity. And so we jammed in the basement of my parents' house. Negative Reaction did. And also played with my buddy Doug Matson and Mark Kozlowski, and we were called the Nude Alligators. We played in the basement of my parents' house too. My father would come down and jam with us sometimes. And so later on, Kenny and we put out a record called We Got Problems. And it was a split with this band called Soundbite House. It came out in 1994. And then we did our first album, Negative Reaction did, in 1996, called End of Your Era. And it's a full-length album. You can hear it on Bandcamp if you want to hear it. And I also played in Mad Cow Disease 182. We put out a couple of records from Long Island. And then in 1998, Negative Reaction put out the Orbit EP.
Nice. For those that are
And-
listening, he has the album. He just showed us the cover.
Yeah. And I played on one side and a song called Dianaga. Then later on, I joined Latex Generation in 1997, 1998. And I got to tour Australia, opening up for Suicidal Tendencies, Deftones, and Pennywise, and Less Than Jake. Latex Generation toured Australia. That was a great time.
Was that your first big tour?
Yeah.
Nice.
We also toured all over the U.S. for like a month at a time. Then I joined Sixgun Radio after Latex broke up. And we did a full-length album called Please Press Me.
That's a good album. I have that album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sturgeon sang on a couple of songs on this. So that was pretty cool. Then after that band broke up, I joined Molotov Cocktail. And that was around 2004. And I did 3 tours in Europe with those guys. Plus we played in Brazil and Colombia. So those were good times. Around the same time of that band, Molotov Cocktail, I did a Stockyard Stoics album. You were in Stockyard Stoics too, right?
Sort of. I was in the Regressives and the 2-for-1ers, which were basically the Stockyard Stoics under a different name. With different, they swapped out a drummer and it was me, for the most part.
And then I played on from Molotov Cocktail, me and Mike Dimmitt from Mutilation Rights. We did an album called Animale. And you played it in the reunion show for the Animale tour, right?
I believe so. Yeah, I did guitar. For those reunion, those last 2, they did 2, I believe 2 of them. And one of them, you were on drums, and the other, they had, I think his name was Chris, played drums. I think you did the Trash Bar one. It was either the Trash... No, you did the one that was at the Grand Victory.
Yeah. I remember
that was a fun show. Absolutely. I just thought of a story. Just talking about that, I got to write something down to bring up later. I just thought of something. We have a lot of funny stories because we spent a lot of time traveling and playing music together. But go ahead. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Then in 2008, I played on Tales from the Insomniac album by Negative Reaction. And this album is pretty heavy. We did 9 songs. One of my favorite songs on it is A Wish to Dream. I really like that song. And then I joined Scalp Tarsus with Callum from Phobia. And we got to tour Mexico together. That was fun. Scalp Tarsus did a record and a full-length CD. It's all on Bandcamp. Then I did in 2008 I moved to Colorado. So I've been playing
2008. Yeah, time flies, right? Just seems like the other day.
Yeah. And I've been playing in a few clubs here in Colorado. One's called Loaded Joe's, one's called Route 6, and one's called I'm Prost. And those are good times. And 2023, I put out an album with Kenny Bones. We put it out together. It's called Zero Minus Infinity. And that got some great reviews from underground metal zines. And then the last record, most recent thing I've done is Negative Reaction did a split with Pill Crusher. It's a tribute to Buzz Oven. The split cover compilation CD. And the singer to Hill Crusher passed away. His name was Beer. He passed away recently. And so, and he is going to send me some new tracks, because he sends me his tracks from West Virginia. And once he sends me the tracks, I learn the song, and then we go record it. And we have a new album coming out.
Very cool. So
Yeah.
you've played in just about as many bands as I had, because both of us were always playing in a million different bands, usually in about 5 bands at a time.
I played
See, that's the problem.
PSF. We both played in PSF, right?
Right. Yeah. I was with me and Mike Ray and Anthony Barnes. We started the band, and then of course I moved to Philadelphia, and then it was, I guess, 5 years later. No, not even 5 years. About 3 or 4 years later, that's when you and Chris started playing with Mike in that band under that.
Yeah.
So that was, and you guys toured all over
We
the place as well.
the whole country.
Right.
We went from New York. We started out in North Carolina, I think, was the first show.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went down to Florida, all the way over Texas. We went up California and played in Seattle, Washington.
Now, my favorite story is the one where, so I guess Mike already knew Chris, right? So, you and Chris are coming down from New York. So Mike, he was a little skeptical of people. He was a little suspicious of people if he didn't really know them. But so he was just meeting you, and do you want to tell the story about when he was just meeting you, and he was trying to make sure that you were legit?
They took us through the back roads in the mud and everything. We weren't on any paved roads anymore because he didn't want us to remember how to get to his house. So he pulls over and he says, "Hey, you guys got GPS?" And I go, "UPS? Was that right?"
And then
Yeah.
And then he was like, "Okay, you're cool."
Yeah, he said, "Okay, you're cool," and that was it.
I love that story. See, he didn't have anything to worry about because you didn't even know what GPS was at the time.
No.
That's awesome. It was, oh man. So, what I wanted before we get into some of the touring stories, I wanted to ask you. So, you grew up on Long Island, right?
Yeah.
That's what most people.
Hicksville, Long Island, the same town as Billy Joel.
Okay, yeah. So when you were a kid, let's say 10 years old or whatever, what did you guys do for fun before you started getting into music? What were you getting into back in those days before you got into music? Like what, video games, skateboarding, what were you guys into?
We were playing Nintendo.
Oh yeah. Like most of us were.
Yeah.
Same lot. Just about everybody our age at that age was playing Nintendo. Yeah. Super Mario, of course, Super Mario, because that came with the game system. But what about? Did you ever play sports or anything, or were you?
Yeah,
mostly...
I played baseball. I played lacrosse. I played hockey. I played soccer. I played football. Not professionally, of course.
Right. That's another thing. When I was a kid, I played sports too. I did less ice hockey, but I did roller hockey.
My dad was the coach.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I wrote a song.
What a lot of people.
I wrote a song about it called "When I Was a Kid," and my uncle and my dad both played on the song. It's on Bandcamp. Cool. It's on my Bandcamp if you want to hear it.
And so if people want to hear your song, and that's under your Brian Alien's band?
Brian Alien Apostola. On my Bandcamp. You can check out my whole discography. Well, that I did on my solo albums.
Which are very good. I think they turned out really good.
Thanks.
I wanted to ask you. There was another story, and I don't even remember it, but I remember it was funny. There was one. You were touring with Latex Generation, and you were in Australia, and I don't even remember this. You might. I'm sure you probably do, but I just remembered. I would always laugh every time you would tell it. It was something about being hot or something. I can't remember. Do you know which one I'm thinking of? Because I couldn't. I just wrote down Latex Generation. I couldn't remember the exact story, but there was some story you used to always tell us. It just always cracked me up.
Was it the time that I got checked into the glass table and I had to get stitches?
I'm not sure if that was it or that. No, this was something about drumming. About it was hot, and I can't remember what happened. Oh, tell us the story. See, I don't know that one. Tell me about the glass table.
Oh, so they had this cruise ship that everybody took a cruise on a boat, and Brooks Backerman was playing drums, and Mike Muir was singing, and CJ Ramon was playing bass, and I think it was Fletcher was playing guitar, and they did Institutionalized, but Mike Muir let me sing it, and then they played Lexicon Devil. Gimme, I need some more. Mm-hmm. You know that song, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they played that, and the whole boat just did a pylon, and I was on the bottom of the pylon on my back on the table of broken glass.
Oh, no.
And so I made it back to the hotel, and I was bleeding. So we had to get stitches, and but before I could get stitches, I had to play the show. So I made a stack of towels. I put it down on the seat, and I just hit as hard as I could for the time.
I think that might be the story I was thinking of. You put
good.
Towels on the seat.
Yeah.
Was that because you were bleeding on the towels? Wow.
Yeah.
But you got through it, and then you eventually, I guess, they took you to a hospital or something to get stitches.
Yeah, there was an urgent care ambulance on the side of the stage, waiting for anybody that needed some attention.
Oh wow. Maybe that's the story. The towels. I remembered something in my head. I thought I envisioned a drum throne for some reason.
Yeah. That's
so you were all busted and cut up and still played the show.
Yeah,
the show must go on.
I do. You can't cancel. No way.
Let's see here. So I wanted to talk about Orlando. Okay. So we toured quite a few times. It was, it would be Ray Grady's Animale tour. And we would, we did the East Coast several times. I know we went out to Pittsburgh. And I have this. Oh, I just thought of another one I got to write down. Okay, there's too many, but. Okay, so we'll start with this one. Let's start with Orlando. So we were down in Orlando, and we were playing this show. So this is actually, I think, so you and I, we knew each other from playing music, but It wasn't until there was one night or day where we were driving around. I don't know if we were lost or where we were going, or trying to find an affordable, like the cheapest motel we could stay at for the night. But finally, I was tired of driving. I was like, all right, let's just get this place. But I think it was a little bit too much for you guys. But I was like, listen, I'll pay for your room. Let's just stop and rest because we've been driving forever. We got to play the show tomorrow, whatever. But I remember that you.
Thank you for doing
that. You still remember it, right?
Yeah.
Because you couldn't believe that I would actually pay for you guys' hotel room. And I told you, I was like, I really just want to stop, so we can just all stop and get some rest. But that was when I think, at that point, you're like, okay, this guy it was like a Mike Ray moment. You're like, all right, this guy's cool. He's not just some some dude. He's a nice guy
Yeah.
sometimes. But okay, but that same it was that same time, I think maybe a day or two after, we played Orlando. And there was this kid at the show. I think it was a matinee show, or at least it was an earlier show. But there was this kid who the whole show, he was just getting up in all the band's faces, just being a total prick, this kid. And he was younger. So we ended up at this after party, and this same kid was there, and he had this little, it was like a plastic axe. It wasn't a real axe. It was like a little plastic toy axe, and he was just going up to everybody and like just shaking it in the face and just being totally rude. And finally, after you noticed that he was, bothering all of your friends, he finally gets up to you and starts shaking it in your face, and you almost threw this kid right through the wall.
I remember grabbing the axe, and I was like, take it away from him. I took it away from him, and then I just said, like, I'm too old for this shit.
I remember that.
Yeah.
You'd finally had it. But see, the reason it's funny for people that don't know you, you're the last person in the world to ever get like, mad. You're like the most peaceful soul I think I've ever met on this planet. And for somebody to bother you to that extent, it's got to be bad. But I remember that. Another fun one. Okay, this is probably, I know you're going to laugh at this one. So we were playing in West Virginia, right? It was the one show we had in West Virginia, and it was outside, and it was basically, we're playing in the mud. They had this little, they called it a stage, but it was just a trailer. Somebody had put a little small trailer, like, that you pull in the back of a truck, and put down some plywood on top of it, and said, oh, there's your stage. So we played out, in this field, it was basically out on this farm. And there, I don't know, there's like 20, 30 people there. But that night, they said, oh, you guys can just crash here tonight. You guys can stay here. We have a campfire or a bonfire or whatever. You guys just crash here if you want to sleep in your vans. And I guess that some people slept inside. They had, crashed on the floor inside. But you thought it was the funniest thing. So these kids that had us come play, I think it was a Sunday night. So they had us come play their field out in the middle of nowhere. But they had to go to school the next morning. And we're out there, drinking beers by the campfire, and you thought it was the funniest thing ever that those kids had to wake up and go to school the next morning, and we're outside at their house drinking beers.
Yeah. And so I'd like to say thanks to those kids for letting us stay there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was we didn't have to go because we were literally out in the middle of nowhere. But at one point, we were like chopping firewood because they had firewood out there.
Yeah.
But I at that time, it was too muddy for me. I don't like mud, but it was just mud because it rained or whatever.
What time
you got kids out there.
We were on tour with the TSF, me, Mike Ray, and Heavy Metal Chris. And Heavy Metal Chris had to pick up Mike from the NA meetings every day. So we went to the back of the NA meeting. We were sitting outside in the parking lot, and so we picked up Mike and we started driving. We drove through the back, which we should have went through the front because the back was all mud. And so the guys came out and they said, you get ready to push and help these guys because they don't know mud. They're from the city. They don't know mud. Yeah.
Did you get the van out after it was stuck?
The U-Haul had to come and take us out. The tow truck.
Oh, okay. He pulled you out of the mud.
Yeah.
Was that in Florida or was that in North Carolina? Do you remember? It was one of those southern states, I'm sure.
Oh, I know.
Now, another fun thing is, so do you remember, so Phil from the Subhumans, he was getting married, or did get married in New York, and it was at the end of one of the tours we were playing with them, but they did the after party at the Trash Bar, and Citizen Fish played.
Oh, yeah, I remember that show.
And that was a fun night.
That was a great night.
I got to tell everybody about the Alien dance. Yeah, so Alien has his own signature dance, to where it's kind of a ska dance, but it's a little bit. It's like a variation of that, but it's called the Alien dance. But it's one of my most favorite dances ever. But I just remember the whole time, that whole show, you were doing the Alien dance. You were having a blast.
Yeah, that was a great show. They put on a lot of great music that day.
That was definitely fun. Now, do you remember? So we played Greenville, North Carolina, right? This was Animale, Ray Grady's Man Will Destroy Himself.
Oh yeah.
We had Bill. Bill was playing bass with us. I called him Uncle Bill, but Bill was playing bass with us. And at some point, you and Bill wandered off, I think, next door. And there was some guy, he had like an old TV shop. And was he showing you, I don't know if you remember that. I know Bill used to tell me the story, but he was like showing you all these weird old TVs and stuff. I don't know if you remember that one. That one popped in my head. That was the same one where so it was the morning, right? And everybody had stayed up all night drinking. And the guy who owned the venue, because he had let us stay there, he's like, you guys can just crash at the venue. He comes in, and he's like, what are you guys still doing? And I think it was Chris. He was like, we're not going to bed till the sun comes up. And he opens the door, and he's like, the sun is up. It's been up for like 2 hours. So we got the West Virginia. We got the Alien dance. So you don't remember the TV guy. Apparently there was some weird dude, and he was showing you and Bill all these old weird TVs from, like, I guess that was his pastime or whatever, or these like TVs from the 50s and stuff. So what are you doing? What are the name of the bars that you said you play at right now? So you're in the mountains, right? You're up in the mountains of Colorado.
Yeah, I'm in Avon, Colorado.
Avon, Colorado. Is that near Vail?
Yes, it's about 40 minutes away.
Cool. I got to get out there and visit sometime. I drove right past you in 2020 when I was going out to Vegas.
Yeah.
In May of 2020, I drove right, and I was thinking about you when I drove by.
Anytime.
Like, aliens out here somewhere.
Anytime, come visit, please. That'd be great.
I wanted to ask you a little bit more about when you started playing. Did you start playing drums or guitar when you first started playing music? Which one did you pick up first?
I was on drums first.
You did drums.
Yeah.
And you said that was around 16?
Yeah, 16.
Now, did you start getting into drums because
the Animal from the Muppets.
Was that why? Was that
I
really
saw
why?
Animal from the Muppets playing drums, and I said, I want to be like that. I want to do that. And
you did a good job.
Thanks. So did you. And so also we had every musician playing. What we needed was a drummer. In the family band with my uncle, my dad, and my cousins. So they taught me the drums first.
That's always the thing. Every band. See, here's the problem with drums, though. If you start playing drums and you get any good at it, then every band's going to want you to play in their band because it's so hard to find good drummers.
That's
always been a problem.
That's a good thing.
It is. Yeah, it's worked out well because that way, a lot of times, you find a band, they're already established, and they just don't have a drummer, so they'll bring you on board, and they're taking care of all the expenses if they're touring or whatever, and then you're just along you're basically getting like a free, tour of America or what other country you're going to, and hopefully getting a little bit of money on top of that. That's one thing. You can always stay busy in a band playing music if you learn to play drums. That was my thing. I only learned to play drums because I just didn't want to have to deal with a drummer. I wanted to be able to go in the studio and just record everything.
Yeah, that's what
it's so
done.
You cut out hours and hours of rehearsal if you just do it yourself.
Yeah.
But I ended up getting stuck. Well, not stuck. I had fun playing drums, but that's how I ended up playing in a lot of bands.
Yeah, I got a tattoo of one of the bands you're in.
That's what I was going to mention. Right, I was just getting ready to mention that. So I didn't add this into the introduction. Brian was also the merch guy for one of our first Morning Glory tours.
Yeah. That was a
And there was
great
only
time.
one time you were missing. I think it was Detroit. We finished the show, and I walk over to the merch table, and it's like, where's Alien at? And I was like, oh, he probably went out to smoke, so we had to jump behind the merch. But other than that, you were a good merch guy. Just that one show, you were MIA. But you needed that nicotine, though.
Yeah.
That was also the same one. We let you get up and sing.
Sorry
I
about
forget
that.
what. Oh, you're good. What song? Do you remember what song that you sang? I don't know if it was during the show or for sound check. You actually got up and
I did a sound check.
It was a sound check.
And we did Another Way, didn't we?
I'm not. It was either that one or it was a Summerburst. Maybe it was one of those two.
Summerburst.
But I just
'Cause I
remember
said,
you were having a blast.
Ezra is the man. He's sleeping in the van. That was a good time.
Oh yeah, that was a real fun time. So when you started playing, right? Okay, you learned to play drums, and you're playing. You're playing music with your family.
Yeah.
And then when did you start playing guitar? When did you decide to pick up the guitar?
Around the same time, I think.
So you kind of picked that up.
My dad taught me how to play "Hide Your Love Away" by the Beatles. That was the first song I ever learned on the guitar.
Do you still play it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like some of the same songs that I learned when I first started playing guitar. I still play them every now and then today.
Oh yeah, you got to do that.
Mm-hmm. And what about there was what was the band? There was a band out of Long Island. It was you. It was Metal Chris, and it was
Hugo.
Hugo, yeah.
And
Desperosity,
and
that's what it was.
No, they were. I was only in Desperosity for a short time. John Houlihan was the drummer of on the CD.
Oh, okay.
On the album.
What?
But we did Tom Araya. That was one of the
Tom
first.
Araya, that's the one. That one too.
That was
Were
one
you
of
singing
the
in
first
that band?
bands that was the first band I ever sang in. One of the first bands that ever played a show really was Tom Araya. We played at Ground Zero in Long Island. That was a good time.
Now, did you go to high school with all those guys? Is that how you knew
No,
all those dudes?
I met Heavy Metal Chris at I think I met Heavy Metal Chris first because he was in hanging out in a shop I worked at called Utopia. And he introduced me to Adam. And Adam played in Sixgun Radio. Around that same time, I knew Heavy Metal Chris from wait, what are we talking about again?
We're talking about your Long Island days.
Yeah.
About like Desperosity, Tom Araya, and all those.
Desperosity album just went onto YouTube. You can type in Desperosity, you can hear it. The whole album.
Do you still keep in touch with any of those guys?
Yeah.
Back in New York?
Yeah,
That's cool.
It was Hugo's birthday.
Oh, nice.
So I wish him a happy birthday.
Good times at Hugo's house.
Yeah.
Up in Queens.
Yeah, that was.
How's he doing?
Really
I haven't talked
times.
to Hugo. Is Hugo? Man,
I think he's doing good. Yeah, you should.
I'm sure
That'd
he
be
has
great.
plenty of things to say. Now I know you said you didn't want to go real long with this, but what are your goals musically? So what are your plans going forward? So now you've been doing your own thing for a long time. Oh, we didn't mention I've played in your band before. I even played drums in your band.
Yeah.
The Aliens.
They did that show at Pumpkin Square Park.
Mm-hmm. And ABC No Rio as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did ABC No Rio. I don't know if that was the same day, but it was like the same time period. I filled in drums for you guys.
Thanks again.
At, anytime. My pleasure.
That was a good time, man.
Those park shows were really cool.
Yeah.
Do they still have those park shows? I think they still.
Yeah.
I know they still have shows in the park. I don't know if they still have the big punk shows like they used to.
I think they keep going with the Riot reunion shows.
Right. That's like the yearly
Yeah.
thing they do. So you're still doing your solo band.
Yeah.
And is that called the Aliens? Is that what you're going by, or are you just going by Brian Alien now?
Both.
Both? Okay. So it depends on what suits which.
Yeah. For my solo bands, I usually write down Brian Alien when I play at the open mics. So I go by that name. The Aliens was mostly with Justin McCarthy and the other bass players we had, and Copper Cowboy.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I consider the Aliens. But moving forward, I just say Brian Alien. Brian Alien Apostolo is my Bandcamp name. So you can find some albums I've done on there.
I think at this point in your career, you have earned the right to just go by Brian Alien.
Thanks.
I think that you've reached the point where you can just be your own. You don't even need a band name, just you. That's all you need.
Well, when I play in the band, I also use the name Enter the UFO. I like to change it up with the band names.
What about the artist formerly known as Brian Alien, like Prince did that time?
Yeah, that's great.
So that's cool. So you're still active. You're playing music, and here's the cool thing about music now: you don't even have to live in the same place. Like you were just talking about your friend in, whether it be, I think it was Virginia or West Virginia. You can send music back and forth and make songs.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to live. That's the cool thing about technology today. So
yeah,
like you could go in.
That's how
to a
Negative
studio.
Reaction does it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So that's cool because now you're not stuck. You don't have to live in a city if you want to play music with people that are all over the place. Because usually, back in the day, if you wanted to play, your best luck playing in a band would be to be in a city because that's where everybody's at. If you want to find the right band to play in. But now, as far as recordings go, you can just be. A lot of bands do that. I can tell they basically record an album and they're all over the country. And then they'll get together for like a week or two before a tour, and then they go tour.
Yeah.
Are you ever, so are your touring days done, or are you ever gonna get back on the road? What do you think? What's your plans for that?
On the road again? I just can't wait to get back on the road again. But I don't know. I'm having fun playing at the clubs I'm playing at right now. And so I don't really have any plans on touring right now. So I guess I'm just playing locally for right now.
That's cool. You never know, something might pop up.
Yeah.
I'm still not done yet. I'm still not done. 2020 came, they shut everything down, everything got all screwed up. But I wasn't done. I was still enjoying traveling and touring, so I don't think I'm quite done yet. So we'll see as far as traveling, but it would have to be the right band. Because I'm at the point now, I don't want to go play for, 15 people in Cincinnati on a Tuesday night. Not that I'm too good to do that, I just don't want to do it. I was talking about Phil. Yeah, you remember Phil from World War IX. He used to sing for World War IX.
Yeah.
I was talking to him about that on a podcast, and he said, I'm just done. He's done touring. He said he doesn't want to sleep on kitchen floors anymore. Oh, speaking of sleeping on kitchen floors, do you want to tell people about when you were living on the roof of C-Squat? I think they would find that interesting.
I had it. The people in C-Squat were so nice. They let me stay there for a while. And I pitched a tent on the rooftop, and I stayed there for a while. And then I moved down to the basement when it would rain.
That was nice. They let you come inside, though, out of the rain.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
I just remembered something else by you mentioning that. So do you remember? So I was still living in Philly at the time. This is probably 2009. It was right at 2008, 2009, around that time period. But you were living at a place in, I forget, was it North Philly, West Philly?
Oh, with Rob from Bucket Flesh?
Maybe it was around that time period. You were living in Philly at the time. You had
Yeah.
actually come down and were living there. But but you didn't really, you had just gotten down, so you didn't really have a permanent setup. I think you might have just kind of been, floating around to wherever you were trying to find a more permanent spot. I think West Philly is where you ended up finding a more permanent spot. But at that time, I thought you were up in North Philly at one of those, well, it might have been a squat.
I gotta
can't
get
remember.
some water.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But so at that time period, I had just moved out of a place and I was looking for a new place.
Yeah.
And so I was sleeping in my van for like a week or two while I was looking for a new apartment to rent. So, and luckily I had friends down there that would let me come in and take showers and stuff if I needed to. But I was just sleeping out in my van. I was like, I'll just find a new apartment. But we hung out. We were at Tattoo Mom's, and we were celebrating what we were calling it homeless night, because we were both, we didn't have anywhere. we were winging it. But that, I remember talking about living on the roof of C-Squat reminded me of that when we were both just floating around
I
Philly.
forgot to mention the band Plan Collapse. I was in Plan Collapse with JP and Jamie and Webby and Eric. We played at Tompkins Square Park 2. That was a good
band.
times. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We were pretty heavy.
Records, Latex Generation. And then you play bass too. When you do recordings, you play bass also on your recordings?
Yeah, I play the root note of the chord.
That's all you really need half the time. So, do you have any albums coming out anytime soon?
Yeah, I have one finished. I just have to put it out. It's called After the Darkness.
Is that your own?
Yeah, that's my solo album, my next solo album. And then
Very cool.
Also I have a Negative Reaction album that Kenny's going to send me the music for. And we're going to do another Negative Reaction album.
Very cool. Now you can put you those songs, because right now you're just doing on like YouTube and Bandcamp for the most part. Is that correct? Because you can, if you use a distro, we'll talk after this podcast. But if you use a distro, you can put all those songs on. It'll be on everywhere: Spotify, Apple Music, etc., etc. So I'll send you a link for one of those, because when you release this new album, and it's only like $10, you can, they charge you like $10, and then you can put all your music. It'll be everywhere. It won't just be on Bandcamp. So I'll send you a link for that. And they make it's a lot easier than it used to be, but it's a little more timely than it used to be too. It takes a lot longer because there's so many people releasing music. But before we wrap up, are there any funny stories?
Before we wrap up, I want to say thank you.
No, thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure. It's always good to see you.
Good to see you too, Earl. You're one of the best friends I ever had.
You too, Alien. Hey, what happened to the long hair? I thought you had grew your hair out.
I cut it.
Or did you cut it off? You cut it all off again?
Yeah.
That's what I do. I buzz all my hair off, and then I let it grow out, and then it's like a cycle.
Yeah.
I just do this. It's way easier. You don't got to think about it. Just buzz it all off, let it grow really long, and then buzz it all off again.
That's right.
There's too many other things to worry about. Oh, show everybody. So for people that are just listening, that we're both wearing Alien shirts. I'm wearing my Roswell Alien shirt.
I'm wearing an Alien that my girlfriend Lauren gave to me.
Look, what is that alien? It looks like a party alien. What's
He's
it doing?
eating a slice of pizza.
Yeah, a party alien.
Yeah.
It's like a Ninja Turtle combined with an alien.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you want to share with everyone?
You never know what could happen in the future. I might get back on the road again and keep touring. But for right now, I'm having fun playing the gigs that I play and recording some new music pretty soon.
All right. Okay, let's sing a song for him. And I think you know what song we're going to sing, right?
What song is
Okay. It's your song.
that? Alien.
Okay, hold on. We got to do it. Hold on. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Alien. Taking over the world. Alien. Taking over the world.
All right, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.
Alien, taking over the world. Alien, taking over the world. Alien came down to Earth one day. His spaceship's broken, so he's here to stay. There's only one thing left for him to do, so he's taking over the world. Alien, taking over the world. Alien, taking over the world. He's rocking on guitar, he's beating on the drums. He really knows how to have some fun. Soon everybody's gonna scream his name, 'cause he's taking